Hello and welcome to Hello English webinar. This is the second webinar on reading module amongst the series of webinars that we have brought up. This webinar would cover the entire portion of the reading section, what to do, what not to do, what should be your right approach to get the maximum score. In the last section, we had an introduction about what is IELTS and what are the 4 modules of IELTS and how do we move ahead with every module. What is the score for every module? What are the number of questions, the time that is required to solve up every section, and so on. As we move ahead, the IELTS section takes up IELTS reading section takes up academic reading as well as general reading. The entire section is comprised of 3 passages which take up 40 questions, and the time given for this is 60 minutes. So make sure that you complete the entire reading part in not more than 55 minutes so that you still have 5 minutes to go back and solve those questions which are left unattempted by you. These reading sections or these reading module takes up not from anywhere but from your everyday reading, your magazines, your generals, and the books that you have been reading till date. So you don't have to bother about what exactly will they ask you in this reading module. It is pretty easy. While I divide the reading section into 2, one says general, then the other says academic. The general section is comprised of passage which is descriptive rather than argumentative. I mean, this section will not demand any opinions or any suggestions from your end, nor will they be asking up questions related to this. Whereas this section will cover all that is general, that is what the topic says, and the topics would be generally related to your everyday life, maybe the culture of that particular country or the food of that particular country or famous monuments of that country. Basically, IELTS is not an exam wherein you are tested for what all facts you know, but IELTS is conducted so that you are proficient in your communication and you talking in that language which the country demands. This topic also covers topics such as hotel advertisements and work-related issues, because that would be what you would be needed while you communicate once you are there in that country. So the topics would be all related to these general areas where you would be using English. The academic section of reading passages would take up some argumentative text wherein you would be asked about the uh, opinions or the suggestions or the mood of the author or what made him write that or what made him read that would be covered in this academic section. So this section is a bit tricky, but then it is not difficult. This section also would cover general topics like use of mobile phones, speedy vehicles, or drug addictions or coral reefs, etc. Now, the set of questions that would be asked in this reading section have different types. We would be discussing every type in detail. Now, the first type that we would be dealing off with is short answer questions. Now, these short answer questions is somewhat out of routine for we people, because we are accustomed to write long answers and we are accustomed to use a lot of writings in our answering. So we are not used to write lucidly or write using very lesser words or communicate using lesser words. So we go on, and we generally Indians do not give time for others to speak. So this section covers up few questions that would be asked, but they have a limited scope to answer. Like the first question that says, which American company is doing research on the genetic basis of eye and hair color? So if we are answering this question according to our curriculum that we did, we generally would write 3 to 4 lines or minimum of 2 lines which would answer this particular question. But this particular question demands not more than 3 words. That is, your answer should have only 3 words. It can be two, it can be one, but it should not exceed three. That means an answer to this particular question can be Johnson and Johnson, for example. So Johnson and Johnson, 1, 2, 3, 3 words, done. These words can be joined up by 3 words that are given here, that is and, or, now this question, these questions, while we are solving these questions, we have to make sure that we are answering those questions, but at the same time we are taking care of how many words are we using to answer these questions. You may ask me any question. If you feel that we are going fast, you may ping me up with that also, and your questions are always welcome. Now, there are a few skills that would be assessed while we are taking up this exam called as IELTS. Now, they would be reading for gist. Now, what is reading for gist? Reading for gist is maybe some question would ask you about the entire summary of that paragraph in not more than 200 words, or maybe say 10 lines, or whatever is their demand according to the passage. Now, you should be well aware of how you give a gist of that paragraph, or maybe some question would ask you about what is the main idea of paragraph 4, or what details are described in paragraph 5. So you should, while reading, you have to make sure that you are reading every detail of that paragraph. Now, while recognizing a writer's opinion, there would be some passages, like I told you in the academic section, there would be passages wherein you are supposed to give up opinions. Like, in my opinion, using cell phone while driving is absolutely no. So you should not use that. That is my opinion. Now, the opinion might differ. Like, maybe it's an important call and you have to attend. So those are different situations wherein the opinions might differ. Now, what is the purpose of the writer behind writing this particular passage, or what does he want to convey? Those passages would also be covered under academic section, and that is where your skill is assessed. So if you are communicating with someone of that country, and you are not able to know what is the purpose of that person, so you might take him wrong, and then the communication might turn up into a miscommunication. To stop that, to avoid that, it is essential for you to know the purpose of communication. Now, following the development of argument. Now, what exactly does the author want to convey, and what is it that you are reading? So to mix them up and bring them into a balance, you need to have a conversation that takes up the balance between both of the things, and that is what is called as the development of the argument. So while you know what is developing, you have to react according to it, or act according to it. Now, what are the question types that would be covered? In short, these are the only question types that would be covered while you're taking up your IELTS. So you would have multiple choice questions, you would have completion of sentences, you would have summaries, tables, flowcharts, diagrams, etc. Even match the headings, locating information in the particular paragraph, matching the phrases, true or false, yes and no, not given answers. So these are basically the question types that would be asked in the reading section. They would both be same for academic as well as general section. There's an example on your screen that says multiple choice questions. If you can see them, these multiple choice questions are obviously taken up from the passage, and each question follows 4 options, A, B, C, and D, out of which only one option is correct. There would be questions wherein you would have more than 2 options that are correct, but they are not these. The multiple choice questions would only have one answer that is correct and 3 they are incorrect. So in these cases, you have to first try and eliminate the answer which is irrelevant to the question. So that gives you a scope of limited access to the option. So maybe if you feel D is completely irrelevant, so you eradicate that first, then you have just 3 left. Out of those 3, you have to choose just one that is correct. So it makes your task easier. Moving on to the next section, we have completion questions. Now, what are these completion questions? Completion questions take up notes and summaries, tables, diagrams, flowcharts, etc. The words you use to answer the questions must be taken directly from the text. Now, herein you do not have to use your own language to describe the answer or to answer the particular question. You have to directly take up the lines that are given in the passage and place them into the answer section. That is how you solve this particular question, which is different from other set of questions. There would be questions which would demand your opinion and suggestions, wherein you have to write up according to your will and wish. But then this is not that section wherein you write in your own words, because if you do that, there are chances you might lose upon your marks. Another set of questions is table completion. Now, what do we do here? Again, it has a limit of not more than 3 words. Now, what do we do with not more than 3 words? The entire answer is given in the passage. You just have to copy and paste. That is the only thing that you do. You might not be able to copy paste according to what we do on the with your laptops, like we take your control key and control C and control V. You won't be able to do that, but it is the same that you would be doing. You will be taking up those words from the passage and writing them in the place of those answers. Like we have few blanks given here on your screen. If you can see, it is 9, 12, 13, 10, and 11. They have particular questions that need to be answered. Now, these answers will not be according to your suggestion or views or opinions, but according to what is given in the passage. So the entire data comes up from the passage itself. There would be some questions that have a diagram in them. Now, this diagram, yes, they need a prior knowledge of all these things. So it is very essential for you to keep on reading. You have to read a lot. You have to have a greater vocabulary while you're taking up IELTS, because that is a prerequisite for this exam. Now, while doing these while taking up this question also, you don't have to apply your creativity in writing over here, but you just have to logically find the answer where it is given in the passage and put it up in that diagram. Hope I'm clear till here. For the next section, in the reading section, we see it says matching heading question. Now, what are these matching heading questions? Matching heading questions are nothing but you will have a list of headings given and you will have sections given. So you just have to make sure that that particular heading matches with this particular section of the passage. Supposedly, your paragraph 1 deals with farming and soil erosion. If paragraph 1 deals with farming and soil erosion, your heading that is on the third number in your help box would match up with paragraph 1. So your section A or paragraph 1 matches with third heading in the help box of the list of headings. So you have to match them up, just as we do match the following. We have to similarly match up these list of headings with the paragraphs or the sections of the passage. Again, here, while you read, you have to make sure what does every paragraph say. Every paragraph has some backbone to tell you about what exactly does it revolve around. So that is what we do in this section. Locating info questions. Now, what is the information given in the passage? It is a bit similar to the match the heading question, but not absolutely same. Now, the sample passage has 8 paragraphs labeled A to H. Now, they are labeled A to H, the paragraphs are labeled A to H. Now, these A to H passage have some information in them, like I told you. Now, supposedly, the passage talks about the writer's prediction on future solutions. So, this has to match up with some part in the paragraph. So this is an extract of the same paragraph that is given in the passage, and you just have to tell from which paragraph has it originated, or to which paragraph does this passage belong to, this particular option belong to. Say point number 16 belongs to paragraph 3. So paragraph 3 is an answer to point number 16. That is how you solve this section. The next section says matching list or phrases. Even this comes up under the same category, but the only trick that is here is you have an option of choosing more than once. Now, there is a help box given on your screen. If you can see towards the end, you can see first invented or used by. That is your help box given, wherein you have options A, B, C, D, and E. Now, what are these options? These options are nothing but the name of those countries who invented or used these particular items. What are these items? The black powder, the rocket propelled rockets are rockets as war weapons, and the rocket launcher. Now, which of these countries invented, or which of these countries first used them? Now, it is possible, like if it is black powder, we can say Chinese and Indian both. So that there are possibilities in this section that you have two answers that are correct, two answers that go in with the correct option. So maybe supposedly take up British, and the British invented rockets, and rockets propelled arrows for fighting. So for both of those uh, items, you have the same answer. That was also possible in this section, which is not possible in any other section. Coming back to the point that says true or false or NG questions. Now, true or false question also are related to the passage. You don't have to go anywhere else. You don't have to even apply your logic. You just have to see whether the information is present in the passage. If it is present in which format, or is it given in the true format or a false format. Many a times the passage would talk about children who are obese, but the question talks about the children who are not obese, or children talk about children who are malnourished. So that is absolutely wrong and does not go in with the passage. So that is a false information. So in that case, you have to choose the option that says false. This is how you solve these questions. There would be some information that would go under the NG information, that is not given information. So maybe the passage talks about obese children, whereas the option given to you or the question asked to you is about what is the population of this particular country. So if that information is not given in the passage, you have to choose the NG option in the answer column. The next column is similar to what we did first, that is the yes, no, or not given information. Even this is similar to what we did in the last section, but it has a bit of twist in that. In this section, if something that is claimed by the writer and you are given the same statement, then you can say yes, this particular portion is reflected by the claims of the writer, or it is contradicted by the claims of the writer. Supposedly, for example, 30% of deaths in United States are caused by smoking related diseases. So there is a lot of smoking done over there, and there are few maximum diseases that are affected by the smoke. So this is what is given by the author. So this statement reflects the claims of the author. Why are so many deaths happening there? So this is a claim of the author. So if it is given in the same manner in the passage, you select yes. But if it is not given, the second statement that says if one partner in marriage smokes, the other is likely to take up smoking. That also is called passive smoking. So if that is given in the passage, it is claimed by the passage, yes. It is claimed by the writer, yes. If not, you have to choose no. If the statement says if one partner in marriage smokes, the other is not affected by that, then it is contradictory to what the claim author has made in the passage. In this situation, you would always choose the option no. Whereas if the question says the number of smokers in America is 2022 lakhs. So if that goes up, if such number goes up, then that particular information is not present in the passage. In this situation, you would always choose not given option. Moving on to the scores of IELTS, yes, each correct answer receives 1 mark and you can't get partial credit. So watch your spellings and grammar. You have to be particular about the grammar that you are using. You have to be very particular about your spellings. So make sure that your vocab section, grammar section, spelling section is tic-tac-toe, because that is the area wherein you are likely to lose your marks. Now the band score depends on how much do you score in your sections. Now each section has got different marking schemes. Now, and each section has got the different bands. That is all given on the screen. If you can see, if you score 15 out of 40 marks, you score a 5 band. If you score 34 out of 40 marks, you score a 7 band in general training, whereas in academic training, it is the 8 band. So make sure your academics as well as general both are equivalently good. Now, there are few tips that you would be wanting to know or that would be useful for you before taking up the test. Now, as I have been telling you that your vocabulary plays a very important role, a very vital role while solving up or taking up IELTS. So build a very strong vocabulary bank or your synonym antonym bank, which is going to help you in all the 4 sections, not only reading, but also writing, speaking, and listening. Now you have to also practice skimming and scanning, which is important from the criteria of saving time or managing time, because every section has a particular time given and you're not supposed to exceed that timing. So for that, you need to know what is skimming and scanning. Now, skimming, as the word says, we use skimmed milk. That means what? There is a layer of something there. So layer is always superficial. So while we do skimming, we read it quickly. We just have a glance of that paragraph, or we just find some words that are important in that paragraph and we move ahead. We do not bother to read each and every word in that given passage or in that paragraph. Whereas while we are doing scanning, we have to be really bothered about every word given in that paragraph, and we won't have all the paragraphs that need scanning. There are few paragraphs that you would be needed to scan, whereas rest all parts should be skimmed, so that you save upon the time, so that you manage your time. Now, improve your spelling and grammar. Yes, if you write a spelling that goes haywire with your I's and E's, because that is an area where you really jumble up with words like achieve or with words like believe, generally there are mistakes that are likely to happen. So in that condition also, it would be an absolute wrong. Even people make mistake with accept and accept. So that is another area where you have to be really careful. Now, grammar knowledge, yes, it is very essential, because you have to track out what word is it. I mean, what function does that word play? There are many words who play as a verb also and as a noun also. So you have to be very thorough with your grammar rules. You have to know what are models and what are uh, gerunds, and how do we differentiate gerunds with nouns. So they really play a very important role. Now, these words help you guess the type of sentence. What does a sentence want to say? For example, if I say the girl is running, now in this particular section, running becomes the verb. Whereas if I say running is my hobby, running is not the verb but a gerund. So you have to be particular about what function the word is playing, because in both the sentences the word is common, that says running. So you might get, there are chances that you might get confused, and that confusion might change the entire meaning of the sentence. The last point also talks about the same thing: know the word forms. Now, what is a noun, what is a verb, what is an adjective? You have to be thorough about that, and we would be covering that in the sessions. Now, learn organizing words. Now, these organizing words, they are helpful for you to manage your entire the questions that are there in the reading section, because they would tell you about the intention of the author. Like this particular passage features about the obesity that is there in US, or the goal of the player was to this disease created this hazard, or the influence of the author on the community was that. So these all words would be taking you up, wherein your questions that say opinions about the author or your opinion comes up. Understand qualifying words. Again, mainly, usually, majority, most, they would tell you about what is the qualifying word for that particular paragraph. So again, this is helpful for your multiple choice questions. You have to be sure about what is a prefix and what is a suffix. The words that take up some things that are added to them before them, like if the word is predict, and if I say it is unpredictable, so I have used a suffix as well as a predict in this section. So un becomes the prefix, whereas able becomes the suffix. Read from a variety of sources. You have to be a really voracious reader, wherein you read up your newspapers, your journals with a motive to read, not just to read up the story, but then you have to have a motive that you are absorbing the vocabulary out of it, you are absorbing the grammar, you are absorbing the style of writing into it. You have to take up a lot of practice tests, wherein you would analyze the questions, how the questions are asked, how the answers are answered, what is the time that you take, what is your speed to solve up the IELTS exam. And because your speed is very important while solving up this exam, because you have stipulated time for every section, you have to complete your section in that particular time. Now, once you are comfortable with each, take up each section at a time, practice that, be comfortable with that, and then move up to your next section. And make sure that you always have a watch on your timings. because if a section is of 60 minutes and if you take 70 minutes to solve that, there are chances that you might need 80 minutes to solve that in the exam, because during the exam another big monster that sits behind you is your stress level, and you might panic or you might like fumble into something, so that might take you low, and then you might need more time to solve that particular section which you never needed to while you were taking up your practice test. Tips during the test: what do? You While you get your paper, please make sure that you read every instruction very carefully. If the question says do not answer using more than 3 words, and if you are not paying attention to the question part or the instruction part, you might go wrong and you might end up writing the entire sentence for that question, and even after the answer is correct, you might not be marked incorrectly and you might lose upon the marks there. So you have to read the instructions that are present before the question or in the section to solve up the entire section. Now, skimming and scanning, again, that plays a big role. You have to scan the instructions. You cannot skim the instructions. Now look at the title and headings of the passage. So if the heading of the passage says passive smoking, obviously you know this, the entire passage would revolve around smoking. Now, while you're reading, take a pencil and start underlining the keywords or the words that would take you to the back shot of the paragraph and would tell you about the entire paragraph. Because every person might have a different perception about the particular word, and I might feel that this particular word is important from the point of view of knowing what the paragraph says, but it might not be the same for you. You might feel the fourth word is very important for you while you take up the entire passage again, or you reread the passage again. Scan the passage for keywords as well as synonyms. Everything is present in the passage. You just have to match them or pick up them from the passage and write them on your answer sheet. Make sure while you mark your answers on the answer number rubric, you have to be very particular that you are marking up correctly. So even there, you cannot lose upon your concentration. When you find a paragraph area where the word is circled or underlined, you need to skim that particular area. You don't need to go in very deeper into that. Is this the correct area? Can you find the answer here? If not, you need to search the text again. There would be many questions which you are unable to solve while you are taking up the test at that particular moment. Leave them, move ahead, because for that 1 mark you cannot lose upon the 5 marks that are left ahead. Maybe those 5 questions are pretty more easier than the one question where you are stuck up at this particular moment. Just mark a star there or put a dot there and move ahead. You can always come back to the answer and again reread the passage if the time permits and answer the question. So this is always possible. If you have more than one answer, mark the possible answer on your text booklet, and after that again you can come back and think about those 2 answers that you have marked and choose one amongst both of them and mark it as correct while you are rereading or revising your question paper. Skim the headlines. You have to not read every word of it. Like if I say passive smoking, your head has your brain has already passed on a signal that the entire passage talks about smoking and not something else, and not about global warming or something like that. So find the keywords like problem, effect, reason, because some information or maximum information would revolve around these words or the sentences that are around these words. So you might find up the information. So you don't have to read the entire passage or the entire paragraph. Whereas if you are able enough to circle the keywords, it would make your task very easy. Now predict which paragraph each heading relates to. Yes, it works on assumption and your way of dealing with that, predictions and assumptions. So that again makes your task easier. Since I have been telling you, time is a big constraint. Even if you know the entire question paper thoroughly, and even if you know all the answers of that, but if you are not able to solve the entire question paper in the given time, it is of no use. If you have 2 possibilities, again, write them over. Don't think that I would remember that and then I would write it. No, there's a probability that you might forget them. And this IELTS tests your fluency too. Keep in mind, sometimes the question follow an order information, like question number 1 would be in paragraph 1 and question number 2 would, the answer to question number 2 would be in paragraph 2, but that is not always that is not a thumb rule that every question would follow the order of information. It is possible that question number one would find its answer in the last paragraph, whereas question number two would find its answer in the first paragraph. It is absolutely okay with the paragraph. Remember that you're not reading the text for enjoyment. You need to quickly find the answer. So the entire passage might be a wonderful story, or it might be a very thrilling experience of some person, but then your motive is to read the text to find the details, because you have few questions followed by that which you need to really answer correctly. Do not spend more than 20 minutes on each passage, because we have three passages and all we have is 60 minutes. So I would suggest not even 20 but 19 and a half, so that you have some time left to go back again and check your answers and re-answer them. So you have about 1.5 minutes to answer each question. So that is how we have split it up. So don't target on 1.5 minutes for every question. You may take 1 minute for a question and then 1.5 for the second question, or third question again takes up 1 minute. So there is a possibility of you clearing the entire reading section in not more than 55 minutes. So keep that 5 minutes in your hand so that you can go back and answer the questions that you have left unanswered. Thank you for your patient listening, and to know more or to have sessions with me, you can always log into Hello English and you might find me over there and you can book a session with me. For anything else, for any help, we are there 24/7 to help you with every doubt that you have related to IELTS or any other English exam that you want to take up that would open the doors to your dreams. Thank you. This was Pratishtha, and it was nice to be with you.